Thank you for tuning in to Ghetto and Godly, the podcast.
Hey, hey.
I'm Auntie Mimi.
I'm Sola T.
Now let's get into this episode.
Ooh. We back to the sound effects. Well, so this episode is a follow-up to our first episode of Ghetto and Godly. I think it's a good time for a temperature check.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about is Ghetto and Godly, and a lot of that is wrapped around faith. So we know it's faith, two-stepping with the universe,
Yes.
part two. So we're going to be talking about just checking in on our faith. I think, faith is something that is such like this big thing of like, are you faithful? Are you faithful right now? Were you faithful yesterday? Not from like a relationship standpoint, but in a spiritual or religious or religious aspect of where are we right now? I think Mimi, you and I, 2018 has been a very eventful year in the first 4 months here, approaching the fifth. So, pretty much in the fifth.
Right.
So what if you could describe your faith in 3 words, what would it be?
Ooh.
Right now, in this moment.
Faith is 3 words.
3 words.
Go first.
Okay. Faith is embracing. Faith is yellow. Okay, that's a little weird, but I'll get into it later. And then faith is continuous. So it's embracing. I think there's a lot of things. I've really been able to lean on my faith in a lot of aspects of my life in a really healthy way of saying I'm not going to choose stress. I'm going to choose God and the universe and the plan that is already set, even when I don't have all the details and don't know the end results. And then yellow is just a color that I just feel like God speaks to me through yellow, and Mimi has on yellow right now.
I see.
When she came in the door, it was just like the affirmation I needed. I guess it's like that marigold yellow specifically. So I don't know what that means in a larger sense, but my faith is yellow right now. It's just very abundant. It's very much so. Something you can't deny. You don't ever see the color yellow and be like, that wasn't yellow.
Right.
When you see yellow, you see yellow. And you
see
it and you enjoy it. So that, and then what did I say? Embracing yellow and continuous. So I think as the older I get, the more I understand that faith is a continuous process. And so it is wavering in that essence at the same time. So just really continuing to pour into my faith and continuing to receive from my faith and continue to build my faith and continue to find resources to amplify my faith and to continue to share my faith is all really valid on my plate right now. What would you say? What Ayana say, repeat and complete.
Right. I would say trusting. Say
you didn't repeat. Faith is
trusting.
There we go.
Faith is a roller coaster. That's 2, so that's 3.
No,
roller coaster.
If she don't get
up. Okay. I'm
so done with you. I'm done.
Faith is scary.
Let's talk about that.
It's to put your trust in the Most High and have faith that He is. I know it sounds bad out loud, but to have that trust and believe that you're doing what you should be doing in that very moment is a scary feeling.
Yeah,
that's just me being very, very real about that. It's scary, but at the same time, trusting that this is supposed to happen this way, and this is how this story is going to play out. This is how it's playing out right now. So
yeah, I think I've had that's scary is that's so great. I'm glad you held me accountable and said that, because scary is something I think that I've recently encountered with, somebody from my past that has, reconnected, wanting to see if we can explore friendship. And I think what's scary for me, having faith that God is going to have for me what God has for me, kind of, that equivalent to faith, and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do with that situation, because a part of me, my heart is invested in that person. But a part of me is also very cognizant of the pain that person has caused me, and being faithful in that particular situation to allow growth and to allow a different way for me to approach life, and not just say, well, you kind of fucked me over, so that's it. But really being, present to see what that experience could be, if it's something that, shall come based off of, me being prayerful and me listening to what the universe and God is aligning me to. But I think it's scary to think like there's this person that hurt me before, and they may be here to show me something else. And I could block that blessing because of my fear and because I'm scared that the same thing will happen.
I think being faithful doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be protective. You can still have faith.
Yeah.
But you still protect.
Yeah, and I think that's where boundaries and all of that come in. Yeah. So I think, but it's still being faithful that like this also didn't happen by accident,
by chance. Nothing happens by chance.
Like nothing, it didn't happen by chance of how this situation and me even being in a space to somewhat be open and receive it. It's just really interesting. So I think that's something I would add. That would be my number 4 is scary. Not that, that the faith stops when we encounter fear, but it's still scary.
Still scary, nevertheless.
How has like faith been scary in your life?
Scary in the sense of my personal life, like my marriage, like that, I've been married to my best friend, and then for that, at times recently, I didn't feel like that was my best friend. I felt like my foundation, like I've been married since I was 21, so that's like, I'm building a life with this man, and for something that I thought was so solid to change, it's like this is a scary feeling. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And now we're in the process of getting back to a better space, but it's still scary in the sense of like, was I supposed to walk away?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, because it's like with faith, right? Then there's this other faith is like to have that trust, like you were saying earlier, to kind of, feel and walk into the unknown, understanding that it is all provided. All that you need will be provided, both lessons, easy and more challenging. Like it's all going to be there, but in the same breath, still having those shoulds.
Yeah.
And I think that's really for me. I think in the last month, the shoulds have gone away a little bit more, and I've been allowing myself to choose my faith.
Yeah.
And knowing that what is not for me, and praying that, what is not for me will be removed. And what is for me to be in abundance, and for me to be open to embracing what that is.
Yeah. It's not going to miss you. I was listening to T.D. Jakes this morning, and he was talking about how, we're given these titles on credit. Like you get pregnant and you become a mom,
right?
But you're a mom on credit. You don't figure out you're not a mother until you have those late nights and you're missing meals because you're too busy taking care of your kids and doing all those motherly things. And the same thing with being a wife or in a relationship. You're okay. I say I do. I know I love you. I want to be with you. I want to build with you. But I don't have a fucking clue as to what does that mean? What does a wife look like? Yeah. So.
And being faithful, I think, for those lessons, I think that's it, is being faithful for the resources to come when you feel and you are heightened in your confusion and you're heightened in your ignorance. I think that's hard. Yeah. It's a difficult thing. I think faith is like, again, we two-stepping where it's something that like, okay, we showing up. Sometimes you misstep. Sometimes you stepping on toes. Sometimes you had to sit down this round. Because you ain't, sometimes you got to switch the song and you ain't quite did that one yet. So you got to get some more practice
during those mishaps. So, which is the hard thing. It's tough. It's hell. But that's what faith is.
So I have a question. I think we kind of addressed this the first go around, but I'm interested to see if our answers have shifted or changed. But so people invest time and energy into developing their career, their bodies, relationships, but often to neglect the spiritual dimensions of their life. So how do you actively pursue spiritual growth?
I take time out I take quite a bit of time out and just be quiet, or even if the room is not completely silent, just kind of just tune everything and everybody out and just figure out how I'm feeling that day or in that moment, or if something happened to me, and reflecting on that and processing it, and try to figure out. I'm really intentional with trying to figure out with how I am with people and how I am with myself and how I affect myself in my environment. So I feel like that kind of contributes to that or pours into that. When I work out, I feel like that's a form of meditation, and just kind of just taking time for myself and figuring things out. And I feel like that's spiritual to me. Like, it may sound weird, but taking time for myself is a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
So.
I think for me, the two ways that I, as of lately, have really developed my spiritual growth is seeking other people's perspectives and being silent to hear them. I think that, my brain moves, I hear things, I'm like, oh, what about this? What about this? Is like really trying to tune into me receiving somebody's experience and validating it because it's theirs. Whether I have experienced the same thing or not, but really just growing from a perspective standpoint, growing from a humanity standpoint, to say that we all are in our own things. And I think the other way would be, challenging the way that I do things. And let those things not, challenging my own growth in that way, and understanding like, okay, Solitude would have done this way before, or this is how Solitude really wants to handle this situation. But really taking that moment to pause to say, what is God trying to show me? What is the universe trying to reveal, and why I'm being triggered? Why I'm wanting to go to that comfortable place so easy? Because I'm not a person that like enjoys a whole bunch of comfort, but I know for some reason when I want to go there really quickly, that's a trigger for me to say, you trying to grow right now, and you're getting in your own way. Like, you're trying to grow, so just grow.
Yeah.
You're trying to experience, so just experience. And then share that. I think another, kind of a space for how I extend my growth is to share my journey. And so I think that's one thing the podcast is really helpful for me too, is to practice that authentic living and that vulnerability of using my voice even when it shakes. Even when it's more comfortable for me to be silent, even when I know I'm going to be challenged when the words get out, even though my practices may not align with what I'm saying, like to really take that space to show up as myself and honoring God in that. And that is an honor to God to show up as myself with those lessons.
Yeah. Whether
if they're still in progress, or we're post, or we're pre, to show up as myself. And I think, that growth and the idea of how to, I like to measure things, very science, engineer minded. But I think, really allowing myself to step outside of that in some ways too is helpful, where I'm able to just value
what's going on
without saying like it got here, so it's a great value. But to be able to say like, that's valuable that I was able to even hear you speak today. No matter where that goes, no matter what that shows me, like I value that interaction because I was able to hear you share something that was hopefully truth on in your heart. So
yeah, I'll have to add that too, like just being a part of this podcast journey. I'm so used to internalizing a lot of things and not really speaking and talking to people about how I'm really feeling.
Yeah.
So this has definitely helped me with my spirit.
I feel like my faith has been tested with this process of like kind of you and I going through our ebbs and flows and kind of just dealing with our life, dealing with freaking life, and really also still in the same time being called to this. No matter if we got to go through what we got to go through to get here, still knowing like Ghetto and Godly still on the table.
Right.
And I think it could feel like something else. It could be something else. And my prayer is that we're able to use this in ways to abundantly provide spaces for people live in the fullness of what their presumed contradictions are, and be able to share their story from a space that is rid of shame and that honors, God in the most ghetto and godly way that they possibly could, and understanding that it's all valuable. But I think it is challenged. My faith is challenged through this process to come back to it, because now, right, it's been challenged to come back to it, and I think that challenge has shown us the lesson of we should be moving through it, and it's not something we have to come back to. And I think, for you and I, that's our challenge for the year. That's our spiritual growth, is to realize that, we're already starting to say, like, it's a lifestyle, but to really living the good, bad, and ugly with that, and showing our viewers the good, bad, and ugly of this journey. And that's hard because, I'm not a person that's like I'm not a person that's consumed with how people view me, but I'm aware of these things.
I'm not consumed with how people view me, but I'm protective over
that perspective,
over certain aspects of my life. So for me to even like come here and say, yeah, my marriage is
like, I see that as spiritual growth.
Yeah, like that. I wasn't able to do that episode 1, right. Or 3 Queens and things. Like, I'm not sharing that. That's sacred to me. But my journey can help somebody else.
Yeah, and other people can help you.
Exactly.
Because and that's the wonderful thing about the universe, is when I speak something into it, it creates around that. And I think that's one of the most powerful things, is we sit in silence, and we sit in shame, and we sit in protection of our perception, or how people perceive us, and so there's so much that we lack in the creation hemisphere that could be bettering us all, because we're just we're letting the scariness of faith stop us from fully being present in the journey.
All along, it's not even that bad. Ain't nobody gonna say, hi, bitch, you
right.
Your shit's fucked up. Ha.
Because and I think if they do, then let them say that. Let that be their sounding board for the universe to create.
Just don't say it to my face.
Right. Mimi said, talk behind her back. That's what she said. Don't slide in our DMs. Just go tag a friend and send a little private message and talk your shit like every respectable person does. So what do you think a lot about spiritual stuff? Like, do you think about spirituality? Is this something like you think about every day? Is it something more that you just kind of do and think about it every now and then?
I don't think about it, like, really ever. I feel like I am spiritually connected, so I move through life that way. So it's not something that I'm like, oh shit, take a moment.
Yeah.
The spirit is here.
Excuse me, welcome to the room. So I do think about it a lot. Like, I think more often, because I understand from my perspective, and I've seen what spirituality has done in my life. I think most of the time when I think about it, it's in honor of somebody else. So like, I pray for a lot of people, and I like to send a lot of energy and meditate for myself and for other people. So I think about it a lot, because I know I see people going through things by themselves, and not necessarily thinking that it should be connected to God or to Allah or to whomever that is, whether that's a figure, a person, or a larger spirit. But I am continually mindful of people having that resource and connection, because I remember when I didn't. And I remember the things I went through, and how it's such a different experience going through those things now. And just really wanting somebody to have that source, whatever that looks like, whatever, if that's a person, if that's a earthly angel, I don't know what it is. But I think that most of the time when I'm actually thinking about it, is me sending that, because again, I believe that I'm able to manifest what I need and what others need from the world. And so that's something I'm very mindful of, is when I see people and I'm like, okay, you good, you look like you're going through a whole lot by yourself. And really just being able to call and gather the universe on their behalf. And I used to feel uncomfortable about that. I used to feel like, well, maybe they don't want that. And but that's not something that I'll ever go and tell that person that I did. But I don't want this journey is very hard to go through by yourself. And so I want to gather what I can and extend that to you in the most private and intimate way that you have the source to tap into when you to tap into and support into. So I think that's what when I think about when I'm mindful and how I think about it, it's usually in that hemisphere there. So based off of that, like, I know we talked a little bit before about like religion, and I personally at this time in my life do not connect to one particular religion, but I do believe in God and I believe in the universe. And it's like if I sometimes like I don't want to be like a spiritual gloater because I feel like that's how it could be perceived. But like sometimes I really wish I could show people how shit happens in my life, not from a bragging standpoint, but like from the standpoint of like, look at this. How could this be anything else?
That's grace.
You know what I mean? Like to look at the grace of how I am so flawed, but at the same time, like look at how just things just connect. Like there's so many, even in the last week, there's so many examples I could give you. But it's like I also know that is for me. So I think using this platform to create those spaces for other people is important. But sometimes I just wish I could have like a camera in my mind and a recorder in my mind to hear kind of my prayers and then kind of
people see that. I feel like people see that. Like, okay, we know you're going through something or you expressing that you're going through something, but you're not wearing that. And I feel like that's where you know, like you got something.
Right.
Like you are spiritually connected to something or somebody because that grace is showing all over you. And that's what it is.
That's interesting. Yeah. See, you never know. And that's why you gotta, and I think that's one thing I appreciate about faith is, I think faith also can prepare you to receive feedback. You know, they have the corny saying feedback is a gift. And sometimes that's just not. But for the most part, I do believe that feedback is insightful because we're taught to be so protective of our ego. And sometimes our ego needs that building and it needs that dismantling. And so I think faith is like, if you're faithful that what is for you is for you and that you are provided for and that you are protected by God, then when somebody extends something, or you can be in a space to seek that out. So I have a habit. I try to make it a habit to ask people like, what is it that you're perceiving of me? Not from a standpoint to necessarily feed my ego, but so I can be in control of my ego and I can create space for my ego to build, to dismantle, to develop, to do whatever that is because I see my perspective. You know what I mean? And Mimi Mimi will probably say some things that like just may be outside of me that I just don't perceive. And sometimes it's not me being shy, or sometimes, you know, I need to hear it to say like, you missing this, sis. You missing this. There's something here that's not. And also I don't have to take on what she says as my identity. Right. And I think faith helps me with that. And faith
it allows
sets
you
me
to
up
decipher, like, okay, let me receive this, let me reject that.
Right.
How you get, like,
right. You know. Let me do some balancing, some checks and balances.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. I
feel like faith can sometimes, I've experienced, because I feel like I'm very spiritually connected, and I'm faithful that everything that is happening to me is supposed to happen, and I'm never pressed or thirsty to do anything or take from somebody or do anything in that manner. So I feel like faith can sometimes be a little, if somebody doesn't have it and you walk into a room and you speak to somebody that's not as
it can shake
faithful,
them up.
Oh, definitely. I feel like that's been my experience. Like I experience it all the time with people, women in particular, and it's just like, what I have, you can't take away from me.
But you can have it too at the same time.
But you can have it at the same time.
And it could be yours. It don't have to be mine.
Exactly. But seek it.
Yeah.
But you can't, you're not going to affect me and I'm not going to affect yours. So if they understood
But
that.
I think I would challenge that to say we can impact each other.
If you choose to.
If we choose to. If we smart. Because faith is not one size fits all. Yeah. It's custom made. I really believe that. Like it's for you. It's yours.
Take it.
So even when we, I think, faith of those around me or their lack thereof has shaped my faith in a lot of ways. To see like my blind spots, to see where I may be, overzealous about the faith that I have, and it may not be really real. It's just me just talking.
Right.
But to see people experience it, to relate on that space, on that level is very interesting. That's a very interesting aspect of that. What would you say? What needs work? Like what area do you need to work on your faith?
Not wavering on it. As hard as that is as a human being, sometimes your faith is, well, the Bible says, if you want to go by the size of a mustard seed. But anyway, just continuing to have faith that, okay, this is, all right, I'm going to take this little, knock me down again, but I know I'm going to get back up. So sometimes, you just feel like, fuck, am I gonna stay down? I had that split moment, like, oh shit, like I'm fucked up.
Right.
But I have to get out of my mind and just believe, like, okay, dust myself off, get back up again. When I can instill that into somebody else, I can talk to somebody else, like, girl, that ain't shit. Like, let's get on with our day. Like, that ain't nothing. But I have to learn how to talk
to yourself,
to myself, or not even allow myself to get to that space. And I don't even know if that's a real thing.
Right.
If that's even possible.
Because I think that's also part of the human experience.
Exactly. Yeah. But I know that that's one thing that I feel like kind of sets me back a little bit. Like,
I would say for me is to have one particular, like if there's one area, is to have faith that, and it's going to sound probably contradictory to other things I've said before, but to have faith that me showing up and being my authentic self is enough. I think that's something I've really been focused on. And though I think I do live that in a lot of ways, I think there's some other ways that I subconsciously talk myself out of it because I don't want to be too much in a room. I don't want to be, I don't want to be, and I feel like I am a lot for a lot of people. And I've learned to not shrink as much and to not be apologetic for that. But it's something that I continually have to do because, again, I'm very aware of how at least I think people perceive me. And not that I put a ton of weight on that, but I think just to be faithful in knowing that it will be received and how it needs to be received.
What if you thinking that you're shrinking or not being too much, quote unquote, it's not really, you're not even doing anything. Like you think you're pulling it back. But you still who you are. Like,
that's probably what's going on. Like I thought I was being conservative in here, but I done told her, I done put her to a side and had a moment.
Like could be all know, in your mind.
I think that's what it is, and I think that could be very valid. Of just like, I think there's a space to be tender with other people's perspectives, and I think my personality in general can challenge a lot of people's perspectives, and so my desire to also be tender is like, okay, I'm gonna try, not that I'm trying to be comfortable, but I'm also not trying to invalidate your space because of my space. And I think that's something, and being faithful and navigating that journey is important to me because I know I'm not right. Like I know I'm not right all the time, but I have grown into a space where my voice is valid and I validate my voice. Right. And I don't want to create an experience where I'm invalidating anybody's voice. But I also do know that sometimes, a lot of times when I say stuff, it connects with people. It helps people. So kind of, being faithful that will be resolved in, whatever God has in my plan. I think that can be hard for me because not wanting to be like, well, sometimes people say something, ask me a question, I'll be like, do you really want my answer, or do you want me to? I guess that goes back to our nice for what. Like, do you want the nice answer, or do you want me to say answer. Like, no?
How I really feel. Tell me how you really feel. Yeah.
So I think, creating that space, that balance is important to me, and being faithful that I will receive the tools I need to have that balance is important. But it's something that actively active planning, active practice. Ooh. They screaming through the window. I look like it's the window open. I don't know if y'all heard that, but these neighbors over here just be screaming. Just be screaming. Goodness gracious.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Okay, so we talked about what we want to have more faith in, and I know we both believe in God. So, what do you think God wants us to have more faith in?
Just the simple fact that I got you. Like, I got you. Like, what is you worried about? You can't worry and pray at the same time. Like, that shit can't intermingle. Like, I know that he wants me to lean on him a little bit more and just believe in him always, that it's going to be okay. I know that.
Yeah.
And you're going through this for a fucking reason. This work is not going to go in vain. I hear you.
Yeah.
I see you.
That's real.
Keep going.
Keep it moving.
Got you.
We still working, but
Right.
just know.
Keep it moving, for real.
I think for me, I laugh. This is funny. So I think God would like me to be more faithful in my love life. I think God is like, I think that there's kind of like some inactivity because I'm not as faithful. I guess that's probably the area I should have talked about, but I think I just sometimes it's like so far in the back of my mind right now. But I think that's one of those things. Is that I think for a long time I didn't feel like I was deserving or I knew if I could be equally yoked with, a man. And I think in a lot of ways, God is preparing other spaces of my life and kind of just really, I see active work happening in those other spaces. And so sometimes I think I'm just like, well, I'll just kind of count it as an L and I'll just be single. And
ain't no L's.
I just kind of do whatever and that's not a priority. And so I think God, maybe not even saying in my romantic life, but God preparing me for a romantic partnership and love. I think to be more faithful, and that's what I would say God would want, because I'm very faithful in a lot of other aspects of my life that I kind of just place as a priority. But I see in a lot of ways God has really been fucking like, remember about that? Okay, remember about that? I remember it was something, so full disclosure, I don't like online dating. And so after we came back from the girls trip, one of my best friend was like, you should get on Tinder. Like, you should really, it's time you get out back in these streets and do it. And I'm already like, I don't like the shit. Like, I'm a very particular person. Like, I think even especially with like men, like I kind of just know if I like you. Like I don't know. It's not something. I'm not a person like I need to have all this variety and see and meet all these people, and it's just not my thing. And so I signed up for Tinder, and I was like, you know what, girl, living her nice for what? Let me go ahead. Let me just get my rotation going. I ain't never had no whole face. Let me see what I can do. And so that's me again, just trying to do some shit just trying to explore, which I think that's healthy. Yeah. But can I tell you, so I got on Tinder, set up my little profile.
Girl, was it trash?
One, I saw my ex-boyfriend on it, which caused some other stuff. But two, I can't log back into it. No, like I actually cannot log back into it.
What do you mean? You're locked out?
Yeah, like one day, like I will go and put in the password, but it won't pull up the page. Like it will tell me like, oh, you have 5 messages, or you have so many messages, you have these notifications, but I cannot click into it.
That ain't nothing but God.
And I said, and I think that was one of those things where God said, that's what God said, this ain't for you.
You're right.
This ain't, be faithful that what we doing here, this work we doing right now is valuable to what I got for you, but I'm gonna need you, because you can't, when I plug it and you still lacking over here, or when you still feel undeserving over here, you gonna fuck it up. Right. But we ain't got no time to be fucking it up. No time. So, but no, it was just like, it was really one of those, of course, those ghetto and godly moments. Like, I had to show somebody, like, look at this.
I just your ass on Tinder right now.
You're not even about to be able to do this. I know you. I see what you're trying to do.
Right.
It's not enough. That's not where I need you
now.
placed. That's not what I need you. I don't need you focused on that. But it was really like,
that's crazy.
But those are the types of things that I'll get,
happen.
And it's like, I need you to be more faithful there, and I need you to be more faithful in that area. That your experience is not going to be like those around you. It's just not. And so I'm trying to prepare you for that. Stop fighting me on it. So maybe that's why yellow is standing. Yellow is I think my love color.
Yes.
And so maybe, it's coming. And it doesn't need to be rushed. And I do definitely I know there are things that before entering a relationship that, I need to really, God
and there are going to be things that you're going to work on.
Continuing, yeah, absolutely, in the relationship.
That's just that's just how it should happen.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I just think that it's going to be interesting. Like this next one, it's going to be interesting.
Whoever you are out there.
Excuse me, tap into the microphone. Whoever. No, I think it's just going to be a very interesting journey. Like I'm excited. I'm very nervous in a way because I know it's easier for me to say it's not going to happen for me, but I know what God is doing and showing me in my life that it's going to happen, and I'm probably going to need more time to cope with it actually happening than the actual process of it happening. So it's just, that's one thing I would say from God's perspective.
Even with me, like being married and maneuvering through this marriage and incorporating Ghetto and Godly and finding out some shit about myself that I didn't know and like taking it back to my relationship and just like we both have to be faithful. Like this shit is not, I'm finding these things out on purpose.
Right.
God is revealing these things on purpose. And we can't be resistant to this process because this is growth, my nigga. Like, let me grow. This is growth. And you gonna grow and we gonna grow together. I'm not the same person. And be faithful in that. We gonna be good, but we about to go on this journey. Buckle up your seatbelt.
Click, click. Okay. No ticket. No click it. Click it or ticket. Yes. Click it or ticket. I think I'm so excited to see Ghetto and Godly reminds me of faith in so many ways.
Ghetto and
faith
Godly is faith.
Yeah, like it is because I've had so many people tell me my whole life, like you need to blog, you need to do this, you need to do that, and I was like, this is what feels the most comfortable for me. And I have sometimes a complex where most people say they are fearful of failing, and I actually am fearful of succeeding, and so that stops me. Like when I feel like sometimes things are getting a little too good, I'm like, well shit, let me slow down because and I think as backwards as that may sound to some, I know some people out there resonate with that, and so really just living life outside of that fear, working through the outside of that perspective of when things get too good, then what?
I don't think I have a fear of either. Like I've failed so many times and got my ass up back again. Did I say that right? Got back up again.
Got my ass back up again.
And I've been successful in certain aspects of my life, and I'm ready for even bigger success. Like I'm not afraid. Like I used to be afraid. Like little shit used to happen in my life. Like I used to have panic attacks. Like little bitty dumb shit. And I used to freak out, but so much has happened within this year. Like shit is not moving me. Like I'm not moved. That's why, well, not to go back to that, but that's why I'm not afraid of anything. Like, I'm not afraid of success. I'm not afraid of failure because I know with that failure, something great's going to come out of that, whether it be a lesson. Yeah. But it's not. Like, that's a dangerous place to be in. Yeah. Like, nobody wants to fuck with me right now. Because
I don't got shit to lose and I'm ready to gain it all. Yeah, maybe we got to be careful with that one. No, I'm fine. And I think that's a cool space to be in.
That's crazy.
I'm excited to see what's about to come in these next steps. Why you play too much?
Just say it out loud and like, bitch, you ain't scared of what? Nothing.
Yeah, I think we go through those different ebbs and flows of life, especially in dealing with fear and faith. I just feel like you can't talk about them separately. Like you can't have a conversation without talking about fear, and you can't have a conversation about fear without talking about faith. just because, and I think in a lot of ways that we set them up in opposition, and I don't necessarily think that that is truth for me. I think they're both just imbalance and in flux throughout the process and journey of life. Like there's fear and there's faith, and there's one that doesn't necessarily mean there's a total absence of the other, and learning to navigate that. And sometimes it does mean exactly that, but it's all just, you know, life. Sometimes I just feel like I'm always saying that on the podcast, like life.
It's crazy.
And I hope y'all feel me when I say that. Like, I hope you feel every ounce of that. Like, on a ghetto and godly way, on a ghetto and godly level, that you hear, like, life. There's so many things that have been revealed and that I've taken on and that I've released through the process of life that is just amazing to think about. Like, it's amazing to think that I was granted life that has, you know, taught me and provided me with the resources and has pulled those resources and you know, neglected lessons all at the same time. And here I am, still wanting to share, still wanting to create space for other people to share, still encouraging people to share whatever gifts and talents they have to be able to work through. It's all like, sometimes I'm very humbled by the human experience, and the idea that we just kind of do this. We do a lot, like just us, just how we wake up, like, and a lot of that, you know, depending on your spiritual, you know, connection, like that's God. Yeah. So when I say I'm awed by the human experience, it is needless to say that the godly experience and the ghetto experience of it all is all associated. So
I'm just filled with so much joy. Like, I'm just so blessed to have this life and to go through these opportunities and go through these tribulations and still, like you said, wake up and still have a smile on my face and still be able to give something to the next person. Like, I'm filled with so much joy. I'm going through some shit, but the joy I feel,
you don't even say you don't, and I think that's something I'm encouraging you. Not the but the and. I'm going through much stuff and the joy I feel, because but negates the struggle. We don't want to negate. We don't want to erase what that is that comes prior to the but. We want to talk about it in unison. I'm going through all this shit and I'm still able to do these things. And I think, you know, the power of language, the power of what we're taught is like, we're taught so many buts. You know, I'm faithful, but no, I'm faithful and.
You're right.
And I think, you know, the more we can catch each other in how we speak, because again, how we speak is an expression of how we manifest. It's important to take those moments and say and. Like, I feel like I don't use and enough in my vocabulary.
You're right.
I use but a lot. Like, I'm going through this, but, or but, like, no, but and.
That's going to be our homework.
Right.
We're going to work on not using but.
Homework for your inner work, okay?
We are going to use the word and in addition to.
Yeah, I mean, of course, grammar comes in there every now and then. So sometimes but is, but like when you're talking about your experience, try using and. I'm going through this and I'm learning this. Like, here's the hell and the heaven.
That's real.
Well, I think that, you know.
That's definitely my homework.
Yeah, that's going to be the homework. Let us know how that goes. Let us know, like, do you already take on that perspective? Are you already an ander?
Right.
Or you a butter? You an ander or a butter?
That needs to be a post.
Right, we're going to have to post about that. Well, you know, as always, we appreciate you guys stepping into the space with us to think about things.
Thank you guys
like,
for listening.
Yeah. And me and I are going to do a better job of using and a better job of sharing our ands with you.
Yes.
So, thank you for tuning in to Ghetto and Godly, the podcast.
Yes. Catch y'all next time.